Prince Andrew was shocked into giving up his titles after King Charles threatened to take further action. It is understood. The king spelled out to his younger brother that he must jump or he'd be pushed, with decisive further action reportedly on the table.
A royal mansion in the heart of Windsor, a secret palace in Abu Dhabi, and a disgraced prince caught between both. Prince Andrew is under fire once again. For 22 years he has lived in Royal Lodge, a 30-room mansion set on 98 acres in Windsor Great Park, without paying meaningful rent. Yet new revelations show he also has access to another property, a lavish, fully staffed palace in the United Arab Emirates, gifted by the country's ruling royal family. So why hasn't he moved there? Why does Sarah Ferguson refuse to go with him? And what does his Gulf and Swiss connection really mean? In 2003, Prince Andrew secured a 75-year lease on Royal Lodge, once home to the Queen Mother. He paid £1 million up front for the lease. The agreement required Andrew to invest about £7.5 million into refurbishment of the Windsor estate, in return for a peppercorn rent.
Not only on people on the streets, but also from the news media, including the headline this morning from the Sun newspaper, the headline reading, "Banned Old Duke of York."
The deal effectively freed him from paying rent for the entire duration of the lease. He can remain until 2078, and if he leaves early, the Crown Estate must compensate him by roughly £500,000. Public outrage has been immediate. Critics accuse him of clinging to royal privilege while living off assets secured by his royal status. King Charles, determined to streamline the monarchy, has allegedly urged him to vacate Royal Lodge and move into a smaller property such as Frogmore Cottage, but Andrew has refused. While Andrew fights to keep his Windsor estate, reports reveal he has another residence waiting for him 3,400 miles away, a grand palace in Abu Dhabi, gifted to him and Sarah Ferguson by the ruling house of Nahyan. The property is said to be fully staffed year-round and maintained by the Emirati royal household.
They'd hoped that statement on Friday ahead the release of this book would draw a line over the Prince Andrew and Epstein scandal. It hasn't, and here's all the latest that you need to know. First, what's it mean for the royal family? Well, Prince Andrew may be their relative and deny all the allegations against him.
It is believed to sit within one of Abu Dhabi's elite private compounds near the Corniche coastline, where foreign dignitaries and visiting royals are often hosted. No verified photographs exist, and no address has ever been published. But insiders describe it as a modern palace of marble halls, landscaped gardens and private quarters, an opulent residence built for visiting royalty. Experts estimate that a property of this scale in Abu Dhabi could easily be worth between £10 and £15 million, depending on its size and level of security. Yet the ownership reportedly remains with the Emirati royal family, not Andrew or Ferguson. The arrangement appears to be hospitality, not title. Despite the luxury, neither Andrew nor Sarah Ferguson has shown any intention of relocating.
Prince Andrew says he's giving up his royal title of Duke of York, a move that further distances him from the royal family. So in a statement, the 65-year-old said the continued accusations about him distract the work of his brother King Charles III and the wider work of the royals.
Sarah is said to loathe the extreme Gulf heat, and Andrew reportedly finds the region too quiet, preferring the social circuit around Windsor and London. But there's a deeper reason. Moving to the UAE would be a public retreat, an unspoken exile. It would mean surrendering what little royal identity Andrew still possesses. Royal Lodge, despite the controversy, remains his symbol of status, his last standing claim to royal privilege. Behind the scenes, both he and Sarah are understood to fear that leaving the property would permanently sever their link to the monarchy. Even though they are no longer active royals, Royal Lodge keeps them inside the Windsor walls, literally and symbolically.
Prince Andrew is said to be distraught over the prospect of being evicted from his palatial home in Windsor, with a dramatic cut to his yearly earnings looming in April. Andrew currently lives with his ex-wife Sarah Ferguson at Royal Lodge, a 30-room mansion in Berkshire, about 5 kilometres south of Windsor Castle.
Royal author Andrew Lowney suggests that if Prince Andrew truly wanted to vanish from Britain's glare, he could relocate to Switzerland, where he once held property, or the Middle East. If his lease at Windsor becomes untenable or the public pressure too strong, The Abu Dhabi residence could serve as a fallback. Lowney argues the only way the story will vanish is if Andrew leaves Royal Lodge, goes into exile abroad with Sarah Ferguson, and is basically stripped of all his honours. Switzerland offers secrecy, privacy, and a lower profile. The Middle East offers hospitality and the pre-arranged Gulf residence. Neither option has been publicly pursued. Instead, Andrew remains in Windsor, the lease protecting him, the controversy not resolved. Andrew's connection to the Gulf is not new. From 2001 to 2011, he served as the UK's Special Representative for International Trade and Investment.
Now, this saga's been going on for a long time, as we know. But one of the main issues is him at Royal Lodge. You know, vast mansion. It's in disrepair. Not as bad, I think, as people say. It's still, it's still got gardeners and it's still got people, servants and stuff like that there.
A role that saw him travel frequently across the Middle East, particularly to Abu Dhabi and Dubai. The purpose was to strengthen British trade links and attract Gulf investment. During those years, Andrew built close relationships with regional royalty, especially the Nahyan family. Those connections continued long after his resignation as trade envoy in 2011, which followed mounting criticism of his personal associations. Even after stepping down, Andrew was regularly spotted at Gulf events, racing circuits, and investment forums. It was during that decade that the Abu Dhabi Palace arrangement was quietly established. His friendship with the UAE's royal family was genuine, long-standing, and mutually beneficial, offering him access, hospitality, and prestige, even as his reputation declined at home.
Andrew, 65, was stubbornly clinging to his titles amid snowballing scandal and only relinquished them for fear of a public booting. Sources said the situation became intolerable for the king, with Andrew unable to assure him there would be no more damaging revelations.
Sarah Ferguson's story runs parallel to Andrew's. Once the Duchess of York, she is no longer using her titles after her ex-husband relinquished his own. She has responded by rebranding herself simply as Sarah Ferguson, dropping all references to Duchess status. Her social media accounts have been updated. Insiders describe her as furious about the loss of status, yet pragmatic about rebuilding her career. She has sold her Belgravia townhouse, cut ties with several former business partners, and begun pursuing new media ventures under her own name. But despite this pivot, Sarah remains at Royal Lodge. Friends claim she would leave if she could afford to, yet her finances are deeply entangled with his, and the lease at Windsor anchors both of them. There has been speculation that she might relocate to the United States, where she once worked in television and publishing. American audiences have historically been more forgiving toward her than the British press. Still, there is no verified evidence of a planned move. As for the UAE, Sarah's stance is clear. She dislikes the heat, has no cultural ties there, and has shown no interest in starting a life in the Gulf. The House of York is collapsing under its own contradictions. A family that once embodied royal glamour now faces dwindling status and public scorn. Beatrice and Eugenie have withdrawn from public events amid their father's scandals. Charities linked to Sarah Ferguson have distanced themselves, wary of renewed controversy. Andrew's Royal Lodge is crumbling under the weight of its own symbolism. A mansion that costs millions to maintain, financed by a prince with no public funding and no visible income. And yet he stays, bound by the lease that protects him and the pride that defines him. Meanwhile, the palace in Abu Dhabi sits waiting, its marble halls unoccupied, its staff on standby, a refuge no one dares to claim. King Charles faces an unenviable choice. The public wants action. Parliamentarians demand that Andrew be removed from Royal Lodge, yet the legal framework ties the Crown's hands. Unless Andrew willingly vacates, he cannot be forced out without triggering compensation. The King's efforts to slim down the monarchy are undermined by his brother's refusal to let go. Every headline about unpaid rent, every revelation of foreign palaces, drags the royal brand further down. Sarah Ferguson, for her part, may be preparing for a new chapter, one without royal labels or titles. Whether that next act takes her to America, to another quiet European retreat, or simply further from the palace walls, remains to be seen. 2 lives, 2 palaces, 1 shared downfall. Prince Andrew clings to Windsor. Sarah Ferguson clings to reinvention. Their secret residence in Abu Dhabi stands as a monument to past privilege, a reminder of how far the once glittering House of York has fallen. The palace in the desert may be quiet, but the scandal surrounding it is anything but. What do you think their next move will be? Will they stay in the Royal Lodge or consider relocating? Let me know in the comments.